calling was clear in Jesus' eyes for that particular person, right? Mm-hmm. In that story. He didn't understand maybe the calling on his own life. Yes. He was saying, I want to come with you. I want to be your disciple. And Jesus is saying, this isn't your calling. Yeah. That is. Yeah. Go.
And the crazy thing is that there were already people telling the story. Mm-hmm. So there were already people who fled and were like, this is what Jesus did. But Jesus said, no, you go. Yeah. You answer the call.
It's the testimony to go share it.
In the real estate space, we call that analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all heard that one, probably. But we see that more times than not, and that's a lot of the reason why we even started this podcast based around real estate, but to be courageous stewards by taking action and not just sitting still. You have a calling on your life. If it's not real estate, that's okay, but just do something.
Success in business means nothing
if you're losing in other areas of your life.
It's time to stop just building wealth
and start leading with conviction. I'm Jake Tracy.
I'm Sean Skyver, and this is the blueprint for the modern man, mastering real estate, scaling business,
and honoring God and family through courageous stewardship.
Let's get to work.
All right, welcome back, listeners. We're here for another episode, and again, we just got another great one. I've been having so much fun with these guest episodes, and we got a good one today. We got Tori and Jacob Petersen on here. We're going to have them introduce themselves a little bit, and we actually looked into some of what they're doing and some of what Tori has already done, and that list is so long that I don't have time to cover all of it, so I'm actually going to kick it over to her and allow her to just introduce herself, give us some of what she's accomplished, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jacob. And then, Jacob, if you want to share a little bit about how your worlds collided and what it's like sharing values that are faith-based, family-based, and what that's been like. So, Tori, why don't you jump in and share a little bit with the listeners? A lot of people, I think, already know some of what you've done because it's incredible reading through some of that. But if you can share some of what you've done, and thank you guys for coming on also.
Yeah, thank you guys
Humbling
for having us.
and exciting, so appreciate
happy
it.
to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Primarily, my work looks like speaking, teaching the Bible, going into churches and nonprofit organizations and encouraging them and equipping them to serve vulnerable populations, primarily vulnerable children, right, in their communities through foster care and adoption. That looks different week to week. One week I can be helping a nonprofit fundraise so that they're sustainable and they can keep doing the amazing work that they're doing to help kids. And then maybe the next week I'm in a church and I'm consulting their leaders on how to get their congregations involved. I've written 2 books. My first book released in 2021. It's titled Fostered, and it's a memoir. And then my second book released in February of this past year, 2025. And I have a third book that is releasing in November of 2026. I've been very fortunate and blessed to do so much, but I wouldn't be able to do even close to what I'm able to do if it wasn't for my husband's support and sacrifice.
Thanks, honey. I appreciate that. Well, a little bit about us. We met in college in 2017. I was sitting by the fireplace and I looked across and I thought, wow, she is beautiful. And we got to know each other. And the first time we met each other, we did not like each other at all.
Interesting start.
We did not like each other. And I don't know, for whatever reason, I decided to. After that night of meeting you, I was like, not about it. And she didn't like me, and I didn't like her.
And just for the record, I didn't like him either.
Okay. Yeah, we just did not like each other. And, in college, that's like, okay, move on. But for some reason, I decided to send you a text and try again. And I'm really glad we did, because I think we realized that second time that we were meant for each other. It's hard to say, like, what kind of values we had at age 21.
Sure.
I think one of the key things that has kind of been prevalent throughout our marriage and walk together is that we have always been really focused on hospitality. And that was really clear when I met her. She was always cooking meals for people, and she was an incredible teammate. She was on the track team at that time, and she was always, it'd be 11 o'clock at night, and a teammate would need something, and she'd be like, I have to go. I'd be like, dude, it's 11 o'clock at night. You can find someone else. And I think that also was sort of something that was prevalent in myself. I always wanted to be there for people. part of it was because I always want people to show up for me. Like if I'm throwing a party or if I need help with an assignment or something, I want people to show up for me. And so, if you want that thing, then maybe you should, embody that thing.
True. Absolutely.
And so I think collectively that was kind of where our most crucial value, I would say, is that we just show up for people. Mm-hmm. And that can look like hospitality or opening our home. I have this phrase I like to say in my head. It's if a man asks for help, you help him.
Yeah, when we were in college and we met, Jacob, he had written on his mirror in his room, love God, love people, do stuff.
That's awesome. I love that.
I didn't know exactly what God had called me to, but I knew that God had called me to a missional life, and it would be to serve him and to love his people and to love his church. And so when I saw that, it just felt like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. Like, love God, love people, do stuff. And to me, that was like, he put into words that we were aligned, just like in a really, really simple way. And the way that Jacob, like he said, he was talking about the way that I cared for people, but I mean, you did the same exact thing. When people needed something, Jacob was there. And I remember the way that he would ask people questions and just seem so genuinely interested in them really struck me. And I wanted to be with someone who really, really cared deeply for God's people.
Wow.
A cool story to that, actually. So my roommate at that time, his name was Stephen, and Stephen and I are still close to this day. But I was coming home from, I think it was Christmas break, and I was coming from Minnesota to Michigan, and my alternator went out about an hour from school at like 1:30 in the morning. Like worst case scenario, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm like an hour from school. I'm like, who the heck is even awake at this time? And so I called up Stephen, and Stephen was like, all right, I'll be there in an hour. And I'm stuck on the side of the road, like pitch black. The only thing that's coming by you is a semi truck every 30 minutes. Okay. And so he finds me an hour and 15 minutes later. He gets us, now it's 2:30. Then we drive an hour back home. It's now 3:30. We go to bed. And the next morning I asked him, I said, Stephen, like, you didn't have to come and get me. Like, why did you come and get me? And he pointed at our mirror in our room and he said, love God, love people, do stuff. And so even to this day, we still quote it. And I was just like, okay, that phrase.
It was quoted at our wedding.
It was quoted at our wedding. Like, it just kind of like, it sort of just permeated our lives. Yeah. And it just was, I wouldn't say it was like a throwaway phrase I put on the mirror, but, again, age 20, age 21, like, what is anything that you put on the mirror at that time mean?
Yeah. I think,
but it meant more.
We've grown up together.
Yeah.
I would say like that was like the college value. That's how we would put it into words then. How we would put it into words now is, I think, we have family values, family principles that we talk about with our kids, a family prayer, family verse, and we have established those for our marriage and our children. So they've gotten a lot broader and a lot deeper.
Yeah, yes.
When I think of, if we have to go back, that was it. And since then, we've just grown up together.
Yeah.
It's kind of foundational. That's such a powerful, simple phrase to have to just live on.
It's really fun that you actually said that. Sean and I were just talking about this pretty recently. I have been in some business partnerships where the partnership was not good, not treated well. And so partnerships, a lot of people say the only ship that'll sink is a partnership, guaranteed to sink. And so we were having this conversation with regards to partnership, but it could be the same in marriage. And that is just to always be so dependable. Like you're the person that if you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. You're going to be there to take care of that person. You're going to show up when nobody else is going to show up. You care for the other person almost more than you care for yourself. And if you always constantly have that mindset ongoing, it tends to serve you well, but then gives you the opportunity to serve others well.
Yeah, so that's good.
That's really cool. So we're talking about kind of callings and stewardship, and I'm curious, in you guys' marriage and your relationship, what does it look like for you to kind of walk out this calling of stewardship in your family and in your community? What does that look like for you guys, maybe behind the scenes?
You go first.
The first words that came to my mind were availability, accessibility. In my work, obviously there is some notoriety. I think a lot of people who have my job are not accessible to their communities. That is a very general statement, but it can be very true. They're not having their boots on the ground with their neighbors. And for us, we knew that no matter how big things ever got, we didn't want it to change who we started off as. And I think that accessibility, availability is a large part of stewardship. So when we think about stewardship, we often think about stewarding our time. I think a lot of what we do is around, we want to have time for our family, and we want to be able to be available to our community when we're needed. We live right smack dab in the middle of town, and Jacob mows 2 of our neighbors' lawns all throughout the summer for free. They're just elderly women, and when we moved in, they were like, we need someone to do this because the person who lived there before us did it. And if we were working traditional 9-to-5s, we may not be able to do something like that. Or if our time was not our own, we wouldn't be able to do something like that. And I think just when Jacob gets a call, he's like, I'm there. I'm going to help you. And I think when we think about stewardship, it's so much about time and so much about availability to people.
I think 3 years ago, there was this big decision we were making. We had kind of outgrown the house that we were living in. Okay. And we had a decision. There was these 2 houses, and they both would have accommodated us wonderfully. But there was one 20 minutes outside of town with a little bit of land, and there was one in the middle of town, like dead center in the middle of town, right by the library. And we went back and forth on this for probably 2 months. Which one are we going to choose? They both have their upsides. And kind of going off that availability and accessibility, we were just like, I think because of who we are and the lives and the values that we want to do, I think we need to be in town. We need to be 5 minutes away from everything.
And we want to be neighbors.
We want to be neighbors.
We actually want to be neighbors and be good neighbors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope that's what we would say that we are. And because of what we have stewarded, people would say, yeah, like they are good neighbors.
There's some interesting context here that I kind of want to bring up. I didn't, until today, really didn't know you guys. And so when I was putting this together to kind of give you guys just some questions to look at, think through, we tend to not go by the questions directly within the podcast, but it gives us kind of a framework to sort of lead us in a direction. And so I sent those to Jacob, and he wrote back a very lengthy message to me, which I thought was so awesome, because normally it's just like, okay, thanks. You know, there's no real like heartfelt communication. And the thing that you had mentioned was, the perception is, Tori, that you're gone an awful lot, that you're very busy, you're very involved elsewhere because you're so active on social medias and your business, and you do so many things for the community and foster care and all the things. And so that's, I think, probably the perception that a lot of people have, maybe was similar to mine. And Jacob is like, I need to clear this up, that Tori is actually not gone as much as it seems, that she's very much involved in home and community and raising our children and homeschooling and all the things. So maybe these questions should take a little bit of a different direction to make that clear. And I thought that was just incredible, that we just didn't know what we didn't know, I guess. And to see that, you know, your heart is really to be more heavily involved in the community and raising your children and being, you know, kind of steadfast in your home and stuff like that. I just thought that was great, incredible.
Thanks for being my defender. Jacob is my defender. He does not play.
It is hilarious how often I'll go to church or something and someone will be like, oh, it seems like Tori's gone this whole week. And I was like, she was gone for 12 hours. Yeah. She was in 2 different towns in those 12 hours, but she's home now for the next 15 days.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And so you're able to like balance the helping your kids grow and encouraging them. And
I understand why people perceive it the way they do. I post my work on social media because when you post your work, you get more work.
Yeah.
And a story. Jacob was mentoring this young man through Children's Lantern, which is a nonprofit. I know you know, but for context, for people who don't know listening, it's a nonprofit that serves foster families and foster youth. And so Jacob was mentoring a young man who had aged out of foster care for some time. And we were all sitting on our porch, our family, and we were just having lunch. And he walked by and he was on drugs. And I said, you know, are you clean right now? He's like, no. I said, have you eaten? And he said, no. And Jacob says, I'm going to go inside. He grabs the extra food and makes him a plate. And those are not the stories that you put on social media because you don't want to exploit the people you serve.
Of course.
You don't want to put their stories out there and then they see it and they go, oh, they just helped me, so this could be their story with a lot of views. All that to say, I understand why people perceive our lives the way they do, because a lot of the community things aren't the things that we share about on social media. It's the stage and the microphones that we share about on social media.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's an imbalance for sure.
Yeah.
Doing all these things you're doing, which is incredible, how do you balance the short term in regards to the day-to-day of everything you guys do, in addition to having purpose and then growing legacy? She looks like she wants you to take this one, Jacob.
Wow.
So let's start here.
That's a full question.
You guys have some real estate as
Yeah.
well on the side. This is primarily a real estate focused podcast. I should say that differently. This is a Christ-focused podcast, but we talk about real estate because Sean and I are both pretty heavily involved in the real estate space. And so let's talk a little bit about your passion for real estate, what your interest is, and how you balance your purpose and how you can carry on a legacy with the short-term day-to-day, like Sean was asking.
Yeah, let me start with a little bit of history about us. So we got married in 2018, and so as kids right out of college, you get your first job, so maybe not the job that you're going to be working for the rest of your life, but you got to bring in money right early on to provide for wife, family, etc. And
We had kids right out of college.
kids right out of
Didn't wait
college.
a beat.
I love how you guys started out not liking each other.
How we love each other.
A year later,
So it became clear within that 18 months of being married, as we were just kind of learning each other and establishing our own values, like Tori has a calling and a gift, and that is the writing and the preaching and the speaking. And for me, there was a level of like, oh, I haven't figured out what I want to do yet, and there is some insecurity. And obviously at the young age, you're very impressionable. And there are some societal
there's stigmas and pride around
what a man's got to
Yeah.
do, right? And so that was really hard, I would say, for a few years. And Tori did very well for herself in the avenue that she was working in. And it became more and more clear that, money's coming in, but how do we make this money last long term?
Steward it.
How do we steward this money? And I knew how to do that. No, that's to say I have made some mistakes along the way, but it was really natural for me to know, we should do real estate. I'm very handsy. And I think you've said it yourself, like, you know how to make money really well. You got that from your mom for sure.
My mom was a saleswoman growing
Nice.
up, and she sold Kirby's vacuum cleaners, and she would take me door to door with her.
Okay.
No way.
And my mom was pretty gritty. Yeah.
We got to circle back to
And
that.
I
We
would
should.
say I definitely learned that from my
That's
mom.
incredible.
So we have this like experience of like Tori grew up like knowing how to hustle and sales and
And at the same time, I was very poor. I grew up very poor.
right. You grew up very poor, which is obviously that juxtaposition. And so, the part that I could bring to the table was how to steward the money and how to make sure that it's there so we can send kids to college someday, or just even,
Yeah, I remember when I met Jacob's family, like they had college funds for the kids, and they had Roths. I was like, what's a Roth? Just like, and Jacob was educated about that stuff right out of college. And so I was really thankful for that, because we've come from two different worlds. And I always say that Jacob is my talent multiplier. There's the scripture of the multiplying of the talents, and I would have just like buried him. I would say that there was a lot of fear around money growing up, because my mom worked really hard, super gritty saleswoman, but we never had enough, lived in the trailer park next to the mall, lived in poverty. And I always thought, even you can work so hard, but there's never going to be enough, because that's what I saw. And then to see Jacob, know what to do and to steward it, I'm very, very thankful for.
that's how real estate became an option for us.
And you always wanted to do it.
I did always want to do it too.
You always wanted to flip properties.
Right.
So you started out flipping properties.
Well,
Or no?
No.
That was a dream.
That was the dream, was to flip properties. And then, as you sort of flesh out that dream a little bit, you're like, oh, wait, I have this history background, and I really like patina and old wood and this craftsman style. And I wasn't seeing that in any like newer stuff. And so let's see, what our first property we bought was like
We always argue about this because I found it.
Okay.
And he says he found
Fine,
it, but
fine.
I found it.
Our first property, so I was thinking of the Minnesota property. So
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
we found that one together. But our first property we bought was like, the build was like 1875.
Whoa.
And it had a lot of those 1875 features and weird, stencils on the wall that from 1875.
7 layers of wallpaper.
Seven layers of wallpaper, like so
like a
many, like
gobstopper around
obviously
some of those houses.
some really hectic stuff that like had to be done, but like original wood floors, and we just loved it. And that first house really allowed me to. It was a project house.
You experimented.
I experimented, made a lot of missteps. There was definitely some paint colors that shouldn't have been mixed together, but. That's how we got into it. And then we decided to move back to Ohio. So this was in Minnesota at the time. That's where we were working at. And then we moved back to Ohio and we found this old duplex, this old brick duplex.
Been on the market for a year,
It had, yeah.
which we're really surprised about.
Which
And-
used to be very common in small towns like this, primarily Defiance.
What do you
that they would sit on the market for a very, very long time.
what year was that?
Properties didn't used to sell as quickly as they have
Yeah, they
from
fly now.
2018, 2019
Yeah.
up until present. The first property I bought right out of high school, it sat on the market after I remodeled it for like 10 or 11 months.
Oh, wow.
year.
Long time. And the price point was like $69,900. It was
Yeah.
very inexpensive, and that was fully remodeled. It still sat on the market for that long.
We bought it
So-
in the summer of 2021.
22.
Was it 22?
22? Okay.
Which you would think that would have flown off the market. But because
Surprising.
people always ask me, they're like, oh man, that's such a lucky, or I don't know, maybe they don't say lucky, but they're like, wow,
Yeah,
you're so
I can't
fortunate to
believe
get
you
that.
got that.
Like it was here for a year.
year.
Anybody
Nobody
could have
saw
grabbed
it.
this.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Now I think they were rough inside. They needed some love and care, and they are old.
It was easy to do that because we lived on one side.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to love it by living there.
That's right.
Which we call house hacking for those that
Yes.
do not know.
Yes.
And I've actually recently encouraged some folks that you guys would actually know to get into doing a house hack. Malachi has reached out to me several times recently, and he's like, dude, I don't know what to do. What do I do here? And so I've kind of walked him through the process of, okay, you have a duplex, you live on one side, you rent the other side, you remodel them as you do that, they pay your mortgage, you live there almost for free, win-win, you move out to another place, you keep that one, we're
We've
we're on
talked
our
to
way.
her. We've
That's
talked
exactly
to her.
how we started.
There you go.
That's it.
That's a brilliant plan.
And it's great for young people.
Yeah, we talked to
Yeah.
our boys about it. My 12-year-old will tell people how to house hack, and it's like
He tells me how to house hack every time we get together. His 12-year-old's like, I got to tell you
he
something.
loves talking about it. Hope that sticks. That would be a great way to start.
I'm like, Dylan, you are the man. You keep pushing here, bud. You're gonna do great.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
So you bought this duplex.
Bought this duplex. I mean, the beautiful thing about this duplex is that it was 3 brick deep as far as the middle wall between the sides.
Sound barrier.
I never heard the other side.
That's awesome.
And I mean, that was obviously a unique situation. So we were like, we got to keep this place. And so I said earlier, we had that decision between, are we going to stay in town or are we going to move out to the country? We decided to stay in town, and that duplex is just a block away from us.
Very cool.
Which was just really wonderful because now we can literally look out my porch and I can see it. And so, not that I'm peeking on my renters or anything by that means, but I mean, we have very good renters. We're really happy with them.
Yeah.
But I can keep track of it. And so we decided for the one side we'll rent it out, and we tried renting out the other side, and we had I think everybody who's ever rented out a place has always had one bad renter.
No, yeah, I've had more than one.
The one bad renter.
It was my fault. I chose her. I said yes. I'm just saying it was my fault. And you told me not to, but I was like, she needs help. Yeah, that was a bad decision.
Do you want to talk about how we do things now?
Well, you just we learned the lesson. And
Yeah.
I got more discernment on saying no.
We have a couple of rental properties now, and the way that we do it is Tori does all the online work. So she vets them online. She does the background checks. She talks to them. She checks their Facebook, their social medias.
Good screening process.
She
great.
does that. She
Makes a
does
big
that
difference.
side. But the in-person interactions, I handle.
Yes.
Yes.
And so far, that's been a really good process for us.
Yeah.
Good.
It's a great balance. So you do take your renters through a background check, a credit report, like have them do the all those details, and then you kind of balance that with an in-person. Yeah.
Because you would run that process online, and then you'd go meet the person, and your heart would sink, and you'd be like, "You can have it," and then then he'll have to go back in and do. Well, this isn't working.
Yeah, the first time that happened, it was a single mom, and she was starting over from a domestic violence situation, and I was like, she needs to start over. And Jacob loves me, and so he does what I persuade him to do most of the time. And so that did not work. And he was like, I don't think this is a good idea. You were very wise about it. But I was letting my heartstrings pull me in a lot of different ways.
I think that's one of the hardest parts of this business and this industry is we talk about it all the time, but it's business and personal. Like, I care about the people. I want the people to be there, to have a great place to stay. We call them guests even. We try to treat them, fix things when they need fixed, the way they need fixed, and make sure they have a place to stay. But at the same time, you've got to follow processes. Yeah. If you go too much on the empathy side, you have a bunch of people living in your properties, but nobody's paying for anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that give and take, but it's really hard to just go. Like, I have people I like that are tenants, and I sometimes forget that barrier between friend and tenant. Yeah. And so it's like, oh, no, I got to go hang a note on so-and-so's door today. And I don't like doing that, but I have to keep the process because it keeps everybody honest and paying attention. And
that's part of the stewardship, as hard as it is.
So right.
Yeah.
So right. It's not doing anybody favors being like, it's okay because nobody's getting better, growing, or being challenged or learning and improving. But
there is an interesting balance between kindness and firmness.
Yeah.
And a lot of people perceive firmness as not being kind necessarily, and you can be both. You can have policies that you don't deviate from and still be sympathetic towards the person or their situation and be kind, but have standards that you follow, and you can't deviate from them for different guests. We've found that to be true in our own portfolios, that you have to set firm boundaries and stick to them. Kindly, respectfully, but these are what they are. So, anyway, I'm sorry. You were talking about this duplex that you guys just bought. One side you rented, the other side you tried to rent, and this lady was the right fit.
It was not the right fit. And I don't know, it became a sort of a beautiful situation where we looked at each other and we said, okay, why don't we try an Airbnb? This place has already been, it was poor, it was trash. There was a lot of...
we pretty much had to flip it.
We kind of had to. There was pet stains everywhere. The floors had to be redone.
The cats had sprayed the wood. So he had to sand down all the wood.
So there was a lot of work that needed to be done. New. So at that point, you're like, well, we're going to put in money and effort. We might as well just go a little bit further and see if this is something that will do well in Defiance.
Another experiment. We've done a lot of those, I realized.
Yeah, we have, yeah. So that's what we did. We started making everything look nice again, sanding down the floors, tearing out the carpets, repairing the damages, the chew marks, etc. And that was a lot of fun. That was, we got to, and it's an older building, and so kind of trying to bring in and incorporate sort of that historical element into the building. It was a real fun treat because then you get to go to the antique stores a little bit and you get to find little tiny details.
We literally took an iron clawfoot tub out of the Jackson property and kept it.
It's in my trailer.
We have it.
I'm like, don't get rid of that. I don't have a place to put it right now, but we'll find a place.
Our Airbnb has a clawfoot tub. Yeah. And I got to go to Anthropology, so.
Oh, very cool. Nice.
For the wallpaper. The one layer of wallpaper, not the 7. We will tear it off when we need to.
Yes. So it took us about 3 or 4 months to get that Airbnb up and running, and we didn't know if it was going to do any good. And sure enough, the weeks went by, people kept booking it, and it is still an Airbnb today. We love it. It does well for us. We manage it. We can manage it because it's, like I said, it's a block away from us. I can see if there's a rager going on, which thankfully most people are really respectful.
They are.
I know that Airbnb nationally has got a little bit of a interesting rep right now, but I think a lot of that comes from your major cities.
Yeah.
But as far as like the small towns, We see a lot of people coming for family, for funerals, for weddings, proms, dances, homecomings. And so I think we just I really love our clientele that comes through. They're really respectful. They're really clean. And we have just never really had a problem with it.
Nice.
And we do occasionally clean it. We also have cleaners, but there's also a level of me that I do get to go in there probably twice a month and review everything, keep my eyes on it. And it's been now two and a half years. And things are in really great condition. We're really happy with that.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. I keep a close eye on mine. It's fairly new also. And plus everybody's got to learn. So you have your cleaner in, they do things, and she does a fantastic job, and she does other cleanings, but she's more used to homes where people are living in them as opposed to an Airbnb. So it was just kind of walking through, and you'd be like, oh, normally she wouldn't do this at a regular house cleaning, but here you got to treat it like a hotel, so everything's got to be spotless. So I found myself in mine multiple times for that same reason. Just want to be close to it, want to keep eyes on it.
Yeah.
This is almost a whole nother level of hospitality, which seems to be right up you guys' alley. Not only in your own home, you want to be hospitable and allow people to come in and feel loved when they're in your home, but this is almost an extension of that, being in another home that you've taken time to care for and build up, and then bring people in to sort of enjoy the fruits of your labor.
When we put together the Airbnb, that's exactly what we said. Like, this is an extension of our hospitality. We want this to be a home away from home for people who are traveling. And I know that people who are listening to this who live in Defiance, they're like, there's nothing to do in Defiance. And people just gripe on it. But I love this town. And I think we want to add, just goodness to our community and to our town. And we want people to want to come here. And so it did feel like, you're totally right, an extension of our hospitality. We had a woman who came and she stayed maybe a year ago now. Yeah. And she came, you guys know how Airbnbs work, where most of your bookings, a little bit in advance. And then there's those times you get the instant bookings and you have to go in and approve it. And so this was one of those instant bookings, and she was like, I'm checking in an hour. And we approved it, and she messaged us, and she said, the Airbnb app, and she said, I'm so sorry for this last minute booking. I'm also in hospitality. I know that can be really hectic, but I'm coming because my daughter is in hospice, and she's going to pass away of cancer. And our Airbnb is lovely. It's beautiful. It's not very fancy though. We don't do gift baskets. It's not as fancy as some can be. It's pretty simple. But I went to Jacob and I said, I really want to make her a gift basket. Just one mom to another, that has to be the hardest thing any mom has ever had to go through. So I was like, I want to make her a gift basket. I'm going to go downtown and get some stuff. And I put kind of my favorite lotion, my favorite soap, all these things in there. And I just felt like this nudge to put my first book in there, Fostered. My first book is explicitly Christian, says the gospel. And I think in situations like those, of course, people need the Lord, but at the same time, people can be really mad at God, and people can be questioning him. And I don't want to be a person who puts God as a Band-Aid on really difficult situations. So I was kind of on the edge, should I put my book in there? That's not something I would normally do, but I just really felt like this nudge from the Lord that I was supposed to put my book in the bag. I actually took the bag over to the house without my book in it at first, and then just kept thinking about it. And I actually got the book back at my house and walked back over, put it in the bag. She checked in, and it was maybe 3 hours later, she messaged us on the Airbnb app, and she just sent a picture, and it was her and a man, and then all these people around them, maybe 30 or 40 people. And then I get a long message, and she explains how this is her family, and she's a foster family, an adopted family. And we just start going back and forth. I mean, if Airbnb ever read those messages, they know way too much about us and way too much about our girl Sandy. But we just went back and forth, and we were talking, and the last message she sent, she said, this is how I know that God is with me, and that God brought me here, and how God is comforting me through this. And so I think if you are, present, again, accessible, available in the things that you're doing. You see these really cool God stories of hospitality.
You just don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So many times I've had conversations with my kids where it's like the things you're doing now may seem insignificant, but can lead to a huge impact, and you don't know the simplest thing you do could be so impactful to somebody else that you'll never know. So that's a Holy Spirit
Yes, it was
opportunity.
all God. Yes.
That's so cool.
It is.
Very cool. So now you have since purchased another duplex?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And that one is more long-term based or?
Yeah. So that one,
Biggest accomplishment Jacob has ever had.
Yeah.
That is a gorgeous.
Talk about it.
Gorgeous thing. We saw it online and I sent it to him. I'm like, are we doing like HGTV now or
Like
what?
they shoot
This
a
is
new show.
incredible.
All right.
We gotta level
Oh my
up.
gosh, thank you.
Yeah, it was
You did
crazy.
such a good job.
You did. You really did.
So
killed
we,
it.
I've built up some talents now. I've done a few houses.
And he's self-taught. Taught himself
Self-taught.
these things.
Let's
I'm sorry.
go.
Go ahead. I'm
Incredible.
sorry.
Love it.
I'll be honest. So this old building, we have been coming to Defiance for her family ever since we've been married. And so every time we've come back, I've always seen this white brick building. And I thought, that's a beautiful outside. I have no idea what's inside, but I've always thought that's a beautiful white brick building. And we eventually moved back to Defiance and we're here and the years have gone by and that white brick building finally came up for sale. And I was very scared to buy that.
And so is everybody else,
So
because
was
it's
everyone else.
another one that sat for a while.
I almost bought it.
Did you?
A long time ago,
that's-
years ago. It was like 3 owners prior. And then I walked through it with Shane and Annie Beaupre because she was going to buy it for her business and then opted out. I had another opportunity to buy it and I didn't take it because I was too scared.
It was
It's
scary,
a lot.
honestly.
But anyway, I just thought that was a funny parallel. Go ahead.
The amount of people in real estate that have told me that they almost bought that building.
Oh, I believe
it's endless. I'll be honest. I was a little too scared to buy that building. But what I think was the funny thing about our relationship is that she has always come to me with ideas for what she wants to do. She wants to throw a conference. She wants to write a book. What do you think about doing this for a t-shirt? What do you think about? And I always say, yes, 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 yes. And she's always said, man, I wish you'd say no sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes I do too much.
And so, and it's because I believe in you. Like everything you touch, I always say everything you touch is excellent. And so this was one of those times where I was like, here's this building. And you said, yes, you have to buy that. And I was like, man, I wish you'd say no.
Yeah, you kind of found everything wrong with it. And I was like, we can do it. Let's do it.
It was a really tough building. I think it's pretty close to 200 years old. Mm-hmm. The dating on it's too old to be officially dated, but it's old. But the bones were good. The city wasn't demolishing it. The city liked it. The city approved of its foundation and everything. And
the woman before us had just fixed the foundation. That was crucial.
Mm-hmm. And so it just needed somebody to come in with sort of a vision to do it. And I brought in 4 or 5 builders to look at it. And a lot of the builders just said, nope, can't do that. I had the vision, I pitched the vision, and they just didn't believe in the vision. And that's okay. That's not on them. I had to follow through with that vision all by myself. And that's what I did. I bought the 2x4s. I bought the drywall. I hired the electricians. I hired the plumbing. I hired all this stuff out, and I just kept doing it. And it was really scary. Like every step of the way, you find another problem, and you're like, how am I going to pivot? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And 10 months later, I've got to rent it out.
10 months later.
10 months later.
Which is actually quite impressive. If it was as rough when you took it over as it was when I last saw it.
It was.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
We're talking bare bones, exterior
bones.
Walls only.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. That's impressive.
The million nails sticking out of the floors.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a process, but
It was so worth it.
it was so worth it.
One of the reasons I told Jacob, I think we should do this is because I said, I think if you do this, this will be one of the biggest accomplishments you've ever had and you will feel so good about it. And I wanted that for him. And I feel like that's exactly like when it was done. I posted the pictures of it on my social media because I have a larger reach. so we could get people to apply to rent it. And it was funny because I was just expecting people to apply, but the comments on it were like, "This is so beautiful. Your husband did such a good job." And it was just like, "Oh yeah, that's why we did this."
Yeah.
Like, so that you knew, like, you are good at this.
Very validating.
And it's a really old building. And as I think I've mentioned before, I love these old buildings. I want to preserve as many of them as I can. And I just feel like this was, every time I bring up the white brick building, everyone goes, "I know that building."
Yep.
Know exactly
And so
where it is. Yep.
I know exactly where it is. And I was like, okay, that building deserves to be here in 30 years. And I believe the best way to do that was to turn it into a duplex.
Yeah.
Because and as you guys know, Defiance needs rentals.
Yeah,
Like,
we're
Yeah.
housing shortage for
there's
sure.
Huge housing shortage. And
Yeah.
so it's like, for this to be sustainable and for it to benefit our community,
Yep.
this is what we should turn it into.
Love
And it can be a portion of your legacy. It doesn't have to be the entirety of your legacy.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, veins of your legacy that, go much further than real estate. And a lot of us do in some other capacity. Tori, yours obviously is in ministry and foster care and book writing and all the things that you're involved in, which is spectacular. And you're able to kind of take a portion of that and create a vein of a legacy within real estate as well, which I don't know, it strikes me as interesting, exciting that, maybe you two are very different in your approaches as far as purpose, maybe, in what you're set out to accomplish, what your callings are. That kind of leads me a little bit to the question for Jacob, in how do you balance that supporting your wife's calling and also be able to create like generational wealth and, maybe a bit of a purpose and a legacy within the real estate space? How do you kind of balance those two?
That's a really good question. Ever since I met Tori, she was working on some poetry in college, and I remember reading the poetry and being like, "You need to get this published." And I don't say that about everybody, but like there was a very clear sense like, "Oh, this is very good. You have a clear talent here." And throughout the years, obviously everyone sees the ministry and where you are now, but it wasn't always there. The first year and a half, you were a stay-at-home mom. And I remember you went to a conference and you came back from that conference, you were like, "Jacob, I have a calling and I need to like live it out." And I'm going, okay, yeah, that needs to happen. And ever since then, I think I have always it has been so easy for me to cheer you on. Now, in that process, I've had my own insecurities about, okay, what am I going to do and whatnot. So those don't contrast with each other. I can still cheer you on and still have my own insecurities about what I wanted to do in those years.
Sure.
I've always had this vision, and I remember talking about it often, but like I always told myself, if I let Tori just go full steam ahead for the 5 years, I know that she is going to bring in enough money for me to do what I want to do in 5 years.
Interesting.
As simple as that sounds, that was kind of the mantra that I was thinking at age 23, 24. I'll just let her do her thing, make enough money, and then I can do my thing, whatever that thing is.
Very cool. Yeah.
That's raw and real. That's, yeah.
And it actually, ironically, kind of played out that way.
Okay.
Now, as far as how is our family schedule and how do we balance that now, because now we're kind of both getting to do that thing, it is funny that I haven't talked about everything that I've done, but I got to flip a house last fall.
Here in town?
Yeah, here in town.
Okay.
It took me a few months, and I sold it. And then after I'd flipped that house, Tori, you were busy for like 4 months.
It has like been the Lord's timing.
Yes.
So the house was a little bit hard, with the timing. But besides the duplex, the townhouses that you just finished, the Lord has been very faithful. And like Jacob will have a big project, and I will kind of be like settled in my work, or it'll be like an off season. And then I will have like a really high season, or I'll need to get book edits in. And then Jacob's like work will be lower. Mm-hmm. And so I think like the Lord has just been really faithful to time things out really perfectly. And I also think one of the important things to mention is, just because I think a lot of the people who listen to this probably are Christian and they are believers, is your insecurities came from the church's criticism of us, of our dynamic. I think you always wanted to support me. You always wanted to cheer me on. You were always my biggest cheerleader, but you had I would see people from the older generation saying that your leadership wasn't looking how a traditional Christian man's leadership should look. And I think that, that is really what made it made me insecure too, because I'm thinking I need to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. And if I'm not a full-time stay-at-home mom, then that's probably like not biblical. And male leadership needs to look how these people are suggesting it looks.
Well, what an abstract idea too. Like, what does it mean to be the leader of your household? Like, what does that actually look like in practice? And obviously, I'm sure there's plenty of podcasts out there that kind of talk about that. But when you're 23, 24, 25 years old, it's like, well, what am I leading? Like, what is that? Am I telling you no, you can't go speak in New York? Like, is that what leadership is?
There's leadership and there's controlling,
right?
Those
like,
are two very different things.
Those are very different. And so I don't think of myself as a traditional leader as in like, I command people what to do. Or tell people what to do, and however you want to phrase that. But in the last few years, as I've become more secure in what we're building, I think you have trusted me more to make final calls on things that I was not ready to make final calls on earlier on in our marriage.
And when I think about scripture and the man's role, it is to lay his life down. And as Christ laid his life down for the church. And I mean, I do think that is what your life looks like. And when I think about like Jacob's legacy, when we talk about legacy, his kids will sing his praises forever, like about his fatherhood. And I wouldn't be the mom Jacob has taught me how to parent. I didn't have that example with my biological mom. I grew up in so much dysfunction, so much abuse. And my mom, she did a lot of things right, and I love her, but there was a lot of dysfunction, and I wouldn't be the mom I am if he wasn't the father that he is.
I would say that my leadership has really been more about how I'm serving the family rather than what sort of amount of money I'm bringing in for the family, if that makes sense.
I was just going to say that. Servanthood, if you look at leadership through the lens of Jesus,
right?
I mean, he's the perfect example of servant leadership, and if you can embody that in your home, I feel like you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And it may not be the perspective that a lot of the American church or Americans in general or people in general have, but they tend to forget that some of the best leadership that you can provide is just servanthood. And what better way than to serve the people that you're closest with, which is your spouse and your family and your kids. And then it kind of bleeds out from there and shows them what it looks like to be a servant leader.
Yeah.
And then they carry that on generationally.
Yeah, manhood and leadership isn't measured by a checkbook. I don't think Scripture says that that one's supposed to make more than the other. We're called to honor, respect our wives, and you live that out. So that is good leadership. What is it that you guys want to leave in regards to legacy? What are people saying about you long after you're gone? What ways are you impacting people? What do you hope it looks like?
I hope that people say that at the end of our lives, when everything's sold and everything's done, I hope people look back and go, that family, they loved God, they loved people, and they did stuff.
That's so cool.
Yeah, like that.
We started there, and that's incredible.
Yeah, I want people to say they were who they said they were. That's my hope.
And they were where they were supposed to be at the time they were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's a great answer.
Be there on time.
Which is almost just a heart to hear the Holy Spirit and try to follow that guidance, I guess, in your own lives, because that's different for you than it is for me and it is for Sean. You have a different calling, and that's okay. I think that's something that our audience should understand better is your calling is not my calling. Yes. There are callings that we are all asked to carry out, obviously. However, what I do is not necessarily the same thing that you're going to do. And being keen to hear the Holy Spirit and how he guides and directs you, ultimately, I think will result in a purpose-driven, purpose-filled legacy life.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that's very powerful.
Take me back real quick, Tori. So you've got when you felt called to ministry. What was that season like, and what were your next steps, and how did God reveal that to you?
I would say he revealed it to me all throughout my life in really little ways. But Jacob mentioned before that I attended a conference. We were probably married for about a year. I was a stay-at-home mom with our firstborn full-time. And at this conference, people were just sharing their testimonies. And I had had opportunities in college to share my testimony and to speak. But in the environment and community, church community that we were in at the time, it was very encouraged. Like, if you're a mom, you're a stay-at-home mom, full-time stay-at-home mom. And I wanted to honor the Lord. And so, and again, like, I just didn't grow up in the church. And so I thought that that was the right thing. And if you deviated from that, that would be wrong. And then I attended this conference. And I think the Lord just, like, he just really impressed upon my heart. I, remember feeling overwhelmed and, having to go to the bathroom and crying and looking in the mirror. And I feel like I heard from the Lord, if you don't tell your testimony, if you don't do what I've asked you to do, you're wasting my glory. I don't know if we as humans have the power to waste God's glory, but I do think that God speaks to us in the way that we need to hear it. And so I was just like, okay, that's scary, and I don't want to do that, because the Lord, if you want to know what the Lord has done in my life, that's another podcast that you can listen to and find quite easily, probably. But the Lord had done so much in my life, and I didn't want to waste it. And so, I just went to Jacob, and I was like, I think that I'm supposed to speak and teach, and I had opportunities and didn't really know what to do with them. And I was just like, I need to start saying yes. And he was like, okay. And I think, a lot of people come to me and they're like, how can I be an author? How can I be a speaker? Right. And the tricky thing is that I remember I actually went to another minister. And I told them, I think the Lord is calling me to this. And they said, well, you have to be called to that. And I didn't really like that answer, because I didn't know. I was like, I don't know if I'm called to it. I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to say yes to what's in front of me. And now, as I look back on that answer, the tricky thing is you really do, in a sense. You have to, there's so much when it comes to integrity, being on a stage and you're preaching and teaching all these things, and there are so many ministers who fall because their lives behind closed doors don't look like that at all. Yeah. And the weight of that, ministers have to carry that day to day, and it really is a calling. I didn't understand that when that minister told me. I thought she was being harsh. But as I've walked down this path, I realized what she meant.
That's good.
So I find that taking action is sort of the first step. And from there, you kind of just figure it out.
Yes.
Yeah. In a lot of cases. And there are going to be times when you're taking this path and you realize it's not exactly the right path. So you just kind of pivot a little bit and you head this direction. And then you realize that's not quite right. So you pivot. I think people more times than not, they think they need to have everything figured out now. And so many times it's more just about be an action taker. Pray about it, seek the Lord, try to do whatever it is you're doing with integrity, but then make an action step and go. And you will figure it out. And you will screw up and you will fall flat, and then you'll figure it out again.
Yeah, Jacob has really big opinions about this, actually.
Let's go.
No, I just... the thing is, I have opinions, but I haven't quite figured out how to communicate them without being very negative and get your butt moving.
Okay.
I had struggled with some of that early on.
Oh man, I have a couple of friends my age who they're builders, and they're really good builders, and they want to go out all by themselves, and they have been waiting and waiting and waiting until everything aligns, until they hear the audible voice of God tell them, it's your turn. And I'm like, just go buy the property and start building today. Just do it.
Because you just figure it out as you go.
Just one of the more common things that is really annoying to me right now is the amount of guys, and I'm sure there's girls out there too, who are just like, I'll never be able to afford a house. And it's annoying to me because I'm like, yeah, but you're also driving a 2026.
It's a cop out. Here we go.
Like, come on.
Tell me about it.
Hey,
victim mentality, priorities issues.
Priorities. I love that Gucci bag you're carrying. Like, come on. And but I have no problem if you have money and you want to spend your money that way, but don't tell me you can't afford.
You can't have a Louis Vuitton purse
man.
and say you can't buy a
My
house.
insides are like doing backflips
You can't
right
have
now.
both.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to just I'm very proud of our daughter. She turns 18 in 2 days, and she has been working at Taco Bell for the last 2.5 years.
No way.
Like, she goes to high school, she's in school, she gets off, she's home for an hour, and then she works 4 to 10.
It's a very
Public
hard
school.
worker.
Public school. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So
Wow.
she's worked so hard, and we have created a lot of boundaries. I love when you were talking about boundaries, because I think boundaries are loving. And I especially think
Absolutely.
for our young people, they need them because it helps guide them towards what is good and true and beautiful and godly if we put them in the right place.
Yeah.
And she, I believe, is going to be able to buy a house at 18.
No way.
Yep.
So she's saving through this job at Taco Bell.
Yep.
She's going to
That's
graduate
incredible.
here shortly. And her vision is to find a home that she can purchase on her own.
We have definitely forced the vision.
Okay.
Encourage it. We call it encourage.
Yes.
Nobody's getting
Yes.
forced.
Yes, you're right. We have not forced it, but we have we've tried to explain to her, you can be paying rent to someone else, like people pay rent to me and Dad, or you can have someone pay you rent. You can have a roommate.
Yeah.
You can get a 2-bedroom. You can live in one room, and you can have a renter in the other room. Or you're just paying yourself. I try to explain it to her. I say, a house is an invisible bank account. And again, I think when you grow up poor, that's such a simple way of wording it and explaining it.
Yeah.
So she's lived with us for the past 3 years. Like me, she grew up in a trailer, never saw anyone be a homeowner. And so those are the words that help her understand. Oh, like if I buy a house, I'm putting money into this invisible bank account that someday I will be able to have access to if I sell my house or something like that.
Or if you pay it off, then you don't have to pay.
Yeah, you don't have to keep paying if you
know?
pay it off. So,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's very
So
impressive.
to all those 23-year-old boys out there who can't buy a house, just
You can.
you can.
Yeah.
You just gotta make
Gotta
some good
be
choices.
Gritty,
Right.
You gotta
Be
save.
gritty and save.
One of the things that I think helped us when we were young, I didn't have a language for money, but we took. I think as investors, you can't be like all about Dave Ramsey. Which
There's a balance
maybe
there.
a little bit controversial.
Yeah.
You can't be all about Dave Ramsey as an investor. But I do think still taking the Dave Ramsey course, what it helped us do is just have a language. And I think sometimes that's what you need to start having conversations and to start understanding your values around stewardship.
I talk about that a lot because people will say, when you're talking money, you're talking Robert Kiyosaki and you're talking Dave Ramsey typically. Well, everybody goes,
polar
doesn't make any sense. Are you going to do this? It's like, no, you actually have to Dave Ramsey first. Then you Robert Kiyosaki. You can't Robert Kiyosaki before you Dave Ramsey because you're going to screw this up.
Yeah.
And so I tell them, you do this first because it does. Dave Ramsey teaches you almost running your finances like a business, managing debt, not having a lot of debt, if any, making sure your personal finances, income and outgo, that you are living well below your means. That's all great practical stuff to do. Then, yes, you go borrow some debt maybe to have some investments and you invest in things that grow and compound. But it's just doing it this, then this.
Yeah.
It's
that's
almost
good.
like, I think of it like Dave Ramsey is almost the foundation of the home. And then once you kind of understand and
Yes.
have built that solid foundation, then you can kind of build from there.
Yeah, that's good.
You don't have to follow all of those Dave Ramsey parameters necessarily all the way through your life, but it's a great foundation for you to build off of at the beginning.
Yeah, I would say that's very accurate. So we made her take that. I think she was 16 when we made her take that. And we explained to her, this isn't something that you will follow probably the rest of your life, but we need to start here. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, we set my oldest up on just a system for finances. He just has his tithe, his savings, and his spending, and they're all a percentage amount. He just puts in the Excel sheet, and the system runs itself.
You're all about the Excel sheets.
So he can. I love
Yeah.
Excel.
That's why it's a favorite cup.
love it.
Yeah, we were both
Spreadsheets.
engineers, so everything I have is in Excel.
Yeah.
But I'm with you in the sense. Same thing we were talking about a minute ago was I talk to so many people, and they're like, I can't invest. Well, $25 a week in a Roth is $100 a month. I can't do that. But they have a brand new iPhone.
Yeah.
Did you see that jet out there with the rust holes in the side? That's my car.
He owns it with pride.
Yeah, I love that thing. It's got $260,000. I think it's been paid off for 10 years.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a stick shift.
that's so impressive.
So it's like, but yeah.
So it's like that balance between good debt and bad debt, understanding your finances, making wise decisions. It's like all these things come into play, and you can get value from Dave Ramsey, and you can get value from Robert Kiyosaki. It's really knowing how to take all these pieces and putting the puzzle together so that it works for you.
Manage it right,
you know?
steward it well.
And
be
it's all
courageous.
a bigger part of stewardship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
People struggle, we talk about it a lot, is giving yourself permission to do the thing without waiting for somebody to come. We all want that person to come grab our shoulder and go, it's your turn now.
It's your
you
turn.
You can go do this.
Yes. There's a scripture in Galatians. It's Paul, and he says, when I heard God call me, what did he say? He says, I asked permission of no one. I consulted no one, is what Paul writes. When I heard that call from God, I consulted no one.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, Paul, like, it's like if you feel the nudge, it doesn't have to be a clear call. If you feel that nudge from the Lord, like just start moving in that direction and he will honor it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before I started, I left my job to get into real estate, and I was nervous, but I had done so much thought and prayer about it, talking to my wife, and my passions, it lined up with my gifts. And so all that concern and care about what the people at work were saying while I was starting to do it didn't matter, because I could sit there confidently and go, you might be right. This could go totally sideways, but it's a calling. It's not a thing I'm just trying. I'm not leaving out of frustration. God put this on my heart, so I went into it boldly and confidently, because I just let the Holy Spirit speak in that moment. I took it and I held it confidently, and I just let people say what they were going to say. I got laughed at about a sketch I had on my folder with my company name on it, and like, you don't own anything yet. It's like, I know, but I'm going to one day. And it was like, and so it's that calling. But that was a personal question for me. My wife's incredible and has a heart for ministry and serving, and she's is still trying to figure out everything and when to take that step, and I just keep praying for her. But we talk about it a lot in real estate, is you overthink, overanalyze, don't move, don't buy your first property to go take that leap. And that's important in business. Absolutely. And that's a problem, that people don't take that leap in entrepreneurship. But now I'm sitting here hearing your story, and now I'm thinking about the people that are overanalyzing and overthinking about their calling in ministry. Could you imagine if all these people in all these small groups that have a heart to do something to make a difference are overanalyzing their next step too much, that they're missing the goal, the objective, to be able to glorify God and grow his kingdom, because they're overanalyzing the next step of their calling. Like that's like heavy on my heart right now, hearing your story.
Can I share one more Bible story?
Please.
Okay.
Please.
There's this scripture, there's a story in the Bible where Jesus heals a demon-possessed man. And it says this demon-possessed man, it says he has like lacerations all over his body. He was living in this cave. But when Jesus heals him, scripture says that he became perfectly sane. And then there were people who witnessed the miracle, and they ran to the nearby towns to tell everyone what Jesus had done. And then, then people too, they were like outraged, and Jesus was like, okay, peace out. He went and he went to go get on his boat. And then the man that he healed, he followed Jesus and he said, can I come with you? Can I get on the boat with you? And Jesus said, no, go and tell what I have done in your life. And I think that story is so incredible, because Jesus doesn't say, like, the option is for the man to come alongside Jesus and basically be his disciple, be his apprenticeship, like learn from Jesus, or like go. And Jesus says, no, go, because we learn as we go, and the Lord is with us.
Yeah.
So good.
Calling.
That's perfect.
The calling was clear in Jesus's eyes for that particular person, right? In that story. He didn't understand maybe the calling on his own life.
Yes.
He was saying, I want to come with you. I want to be your disciple. And Jesus is saying, this isn't your calling.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah.
Go.
And the crazy thing is that there were already people telling the story. So there were already people who fled and were like, this is what Jesus did. But Jesus said, no, you go.
Yeah.
You answer the call.
Yeah.
It's the testimony to go share it.
In the real estate space, we call that analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all heard that one, probably. But we see that more times than not, and that's a lot of the reason why we even started this podcast based around real estate, but to be courageous stewards by taking action and not just sitting still. You have a calling on your life. If it's not real estate, that's okay. But just do something. Figure out what it is that the Lord's called you to do and start taking some steps to make it happen. Don't just analyze. There's a portion of time where that's appropriate and important and fine, but then let's go. Time to go.
Yep, take action.
You know, so
good.
Let's turn the corner here just a little bit. I want to hear what you guys feel is a superpower for your spouse. Now, typically we will have a single person on the podcast and we will ask them directly, what do you believe your superpower is? And when we have couples on, we try to ask the other partner, what do you see as your spouse's superpower?
Jacob's superpower is servanthood. He just serves. He just serves, and people call him and he says yes and he shows up. And also, I am a very forgetful, can be very unorganized person. And I text Jacob and I call him and I'm like, I am up in my room and I'm writing my book. And I'm like, can you bring me tea? And can you bring me the chocolates now? And can you? And I swear, like, this man never tells me no because he serves. Like, he just shows up.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah, we actually had this funny moment the other day. We were at the dinner table and your dad said, I was trying to answer something.
My dad lives with us, by the way.
That's right.
For
Your dad
context.
lives with us. And it was something funny around the lines of I said, I don't know the answer to that question. Tori's my memory. Tori remembers everything.
Okay.
You remember all my stories, where we were. And so I rely on you to tell me the memories. But then Scott laughed and he said, but Jacob, you remember where everything is for her.
It's like the perfect balance.
So
yeah, it's
true.
like, I know where your checkbook is. I know where your chargers are. I know where your heated blanket is.
And I think we should also
That's
say,
so
for
funny.
maybe some young people who are young in their marriage, we have just hit this stride like in the past 2 to 3 years. So
Yeah.
we've been married for almost 8 years. But I would say this kind of level of like working together and understanding each other has really just come about in the past 2 to 3 years. Just for the people, because I mean, the beginning was not easy. And just for the people still figuring it out, sometimes it takes time and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Marriage is a journey, not a checkpoint. It's not perfect, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say is Tori's superpower, Jacob?
What is your superpower?
Running fast.
You're she's
5 times.
She is really fast. I think you're a really good galvanizer. I think you get if you have something that you're passionate about, you can get people behind it.
Aww.
That's cool. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know what's funny is before today, I didn't know either of you. We had spoken one time a few days ago.
Yeah.
I don't think we have ever spoken, you and
I don't think so.
And I see that, both of those in you without even knowing you. That's pretty incredible that, you can give that kind of, what's the right word?
You live it,
like
you reflect it.
Yeah,
your
you
character,
reflect it. There you go.
Your character is almost outside without you even saying it.
So yeah, it's noticed, it's recognized. So I think something to be very proud of.
Thank you.
Very cool.
So
we're kind of going to wrap up here. So you guys have done a lot, but what's going on right now that maybe you guys would like the listeners to know about, to be aware of, so we can share that with our listeners?
Well, I'm taking a much-needed break for the next month or so. Because that last building was a lot. Took a lot out of me. And yes, we do have renters in there now. So
wonderful.
So the mission accomplished from start to completion.
Good renters, I hope.
I think so.
Well screened.
So.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I think so.
Tori, what do you have for us that is coming up in your own ministry and life?
I have a new book coming out in November that people can
Yes.
keep their eyes out on. It comes out in November of 2026. The title of it is Safe House, and it's about welcoming people into your heart and your home and your life. And April 25th of 2026, if you're local to the Defiance, Ohio community, I host an annual women's conference at Family Christian Center called the Loved Already Conference, and you are invited. This is your invite.
Very cool.
Sounds great.
And then also to people who are not necessarily local.
Oh yeah, you can
Right?
come too, for
Anybody,
sure. We
right?
do have a handful of people from out of town come.
Now, are there tickets to be purchased, or is it?
Yes, they can. I mean, if you just Google Loved Already Conference, Google will bring it up for you. But the URL is ToriHopePetersen.com/lovedalready.
Okay, Cool. And this is something that you do every year?
Yeah, this is our third year.
Okay.
Nice.
That's so cool. Yeah. And this is primarily for women.
Yes, I mean, if you want to join, you're welcome to, but it's a women's event. It's pretty
Sean will be there.
It's pretty girly. It's like a Galentine's Day in April for Jesus, basically. So
No, I've heard very, very good things about this conference, and so I would encourage anyone. Our podcast is probably primarily men, if we're being honest, probably 25 to 45 age range. But I have gotten some comments and heard some things from women as well. And so we want to put this out there.
Well, men, it's a great present for your wife.
There you go.
And your daughter.
So
Yeah. Yes.
So
Look
true.
this up
Galvanizing,
online.
getting people behind the
let's
thing.
go.
There you go. That's awesome. So how can folks connect with you guys if they choose to? What's the best way for them to do that?
Jacob's not a social media guy, but I'm on social media quite a bit. Most active on Instagram, and you can follow me there. My handle is just my name, Tori Hope Petersen.
Very cool.
I respect social media for what it allows businesses and people to do, but I do not have enough self-control to stay off it for hours on end.
It can be tough.
Oh, I see. I thought you were going to say something to the effect of like calling people out for foolishness and stuff like that. Yours just like you would scroll or stay on it too much, maybe?
Yeah, I'm a scroller.
Okay.
Yeah, I
We're
watch a
both
lot of
scrollers.
videos.
I think it's probably just our generation. I just bought myself this thing called a brick. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, first off, whoever invented that, I know that they're making bank right now because it's brilliant. So it's this magnet. It can usually people put it on their fridge. You put your phone up to it and it scans it and it shuts off your social media apps. And you know how like in the iPhone screen thing, your screen time, if you set it, you can really just click past it and keep going, right? So this brick, you can't go past it. If you try to go to the social media app, you cannot go into it unless you go back to your brick and scan it again so that it unbricks your phone. So I got a brick.
Wow.
That's helping me a lot. If I didn't need social media for my job, I probably wouldn't be on it either.
Interesting.
But it's a tool.
It
so
is.
Wow.
Yeah, sometimes she texts me. She goes, "Jacob, I need you to get the brick from the refrigerator and bring it up to our bedroom."
Bring my tea and my
can't get
chocolate.
off.
Exactly.
my tea and
Yeah, bring my
I have
tea
no
and chocolate
self-control.
and my brick.
That's hilarious. Thank you guys for
Yeah,
coming on.
seriously.
We're honored to have you, and we're looking forward to continuing to communicate with you. For those of you that don't know, we're all in the same town. We own properties all in the same town, and we love to be a blessing to others who are in the same space. So we would love to be more involved if and when you may need us. So to everyone else who is listening, we love that you choose to listen to us every week. We have a podcast that comes out every Wednesday. We're on all the social medias. We're on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. I always forget one of them, and I have to look at Sean for that. But we would be honored and privileged if you would go and listen or watch and engage with us. We look forward to bringing you more great content, more great guests, and we're blessed that you're with us today. You guys have a great one. We'll see you later.